Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I am your host, Dr. Will, and I am here with Kayla Delzer. How are you doing, Kayla?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. I mean, you're the TEDx speaker.
I
You
am
know,
the TEDx speaker.
I'm just a dude with a hangout.
I'll take the hangout. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome, awesome. So, people, we're going to be talking about, how do you bring Starbucks to your classroom? And I was inspired by an article you wrote for EdSurge. So, but before we get there, for those who are watching the show, will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Kayla Delzer, like he said, and I'm a second grade teacher in West Fargo, North Dakota. Little bit far away from Dr. Will. We were laughing about that earlier. I was a TEDx speaker. I have my column with EdSurge, and so we're going to actually talk about just one of the pieces that did really well in 2015 with EdSurge, and it's created this revolution around the world about classroom redesign that's really exciting. So I'm really excited to talk about that with you. TEDx speaker. I'm a consultant, so I work with a lot of different districts, and then also just a speaker. So I go to lots of different conferences, and I get to kind of share variety of technology things, and lately it's been a lot with classroom redesign, so that's kind of exciting. I'm in the process of writing a book with my friend, which I didn't even tell you that, with my friend Jen Jones. Her blog is Hello Literacy, and so we're super excited about that, and it's going to kind of be like a how-to guidebook for 21st century teaching. And it's going to be short and small, and hopefully like part of a 3-part series. We're still working on that part of it, but should be due out in December of 2016 this year. So lots going on, always lots going on. I'm always really busy, but it's really good. It's a good busy.
Wow, I love this. And what's so amazing about that is you're in North Dakota.
I am.
And years ago, before the internet and all this digital media and all these things, generally people had to be from certain media markets to get that attention, to get those different opportunities. But now, being able to have your own blog, your own YouTube channel, to be able to do a TEDx talk, to be able to write for EdSurge and present at all these conferences, it really doesn't matter your locale. You can still get those other opportunities.
Social media for sure has changed my life. It's changed my world. I think it's really just connected me with so many incredible, passionate educators that really, they keep me fired up, and they also just challenge me to do better every day. And I always think and I kind of joke about this, but if I was a teacher in let's say 1980, I don't think I'd be half the teacher that I am today, because I just would be, it's like an island that you're on. You get to work with the people in your building, or you could put out a phone call to somebody. But now if I have a question, I can put it on Twitter and I'll have 30 responses in 2 minutes, also just the people who have so many good ideas that I get to pick their brains, or I get to, take some ideas that makes me better every single day for my kids. And so it just kind of makes me want to be a better teacher every day. And like you said, it doesn't, I'm literally one of 6 people that live in North Dakota. Just kidding, but really there's not a lot of people that live here. But that doesn't matter. What matters is, being the connection. And I always hear you can choose to be connected, or you can choose not to be connected. That's a choice that you make in 2016. You can choose to reach out to people on social media, or you can choose not to. And social media is happening with or without you. So you might as well just get on board and start connecting with all these amazing people that are going to make you better.
Wow, that's all right. That's all right, folks. That's all right. So, of all things to model your classroom after, why Starbucks?
Okay, so this is such a good question, and it's got a little bit of a backstory. So hang with me for 2 minutes. So it all started this last summer when I was getting ready for my TED Talk. So what's kind of weird and crazy and also awesome about TED is when you get a TEDx talk, they give you, I think this is around the world, maybe not, maybe it's just in Fargo, but they gave me a team that worked with me. So I had somebody who helped me a speaking coach. I had someone who made my slides for me, a slide deck designer. I had somebody who worked on my script with me. I had a whole team of people that worked with me. which was amazing. And there was a lot of meetings going up to TED, like a lot, like started out like it was like kind of weekly, and then it was more than that. And it was awesome to work with these professionals because they definitely made me a better speaker, which was great. And so I was finding like when I was working on my script or I was working on, like getting ready for it, if I was at my house, I feel like I was really distracted. Like I would be doing the laundry, or I'd go, like I love running. So I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna go for a quick run. Or like, I'd be like cooking dinner, or I just was like very distracted. And so like if I knew I had to get stuff done, I would get in my car with my computer and I'd go to Starbucks. And I was looking around one day like, why do I have to go to Starbucks to get things done? Like this, why I'm an adult and I'm just easily distracted everywhere else. And it's like, what about Starbucks makes this a place where people from all over the city come to get work done? And so I started looking around, and like I was looking at all the different kinds of seating. Like they have a variety of kinds of seating. There's no one who checks you in at the door and is like, you have to sit in this seat. Like no one tells you that. You can sit where you want to sit. And like I choose to sit usually on like the comfortable seating, but yet I see people who choose like the chair with the table. Like that's very normal for them. And I like just the environment, like it's cozy. It's like there's stuff hung up on the walls that makes it inviting. Like there's soft music playing. Like it's a place where you want to go hang out. Like you can go there to hang out. You can go there to work. Like lots of people go there. And so I was looking around and I was like, why can I not make my classroom look more like this? Like if it works for me, why would this not work for kids? And so I'm always after just that engagement piece. Like whatever I can do to change things to make kids engaged, like I will do it. I will try it. I'm gonna do it. And so like, even though I was choosing to sit on like the couch and other people are choosing like the other chairs, like it didn't make me right and them wrong, or them right and me wrong. Like it's all about like where you learn best or where you work best. And so this whole beautiful thing started because I was like, couldn't get anything done at home to get ready for TED. So I'd go to Starbucks. And so I really just started kind of like taking note of how they set up their coffee shop, and like what did they do to make it aesthetically pleasing, and like what elements can I take from that to bring into my classroom. And so that's sort of how the whole beauty of like the Starbucks classroom started, I guess.
So what was the design process like? So what went through your mind? What did you decide to implement, and what did you decide to just throw out?
So that's a very loaded question, and that's a good question. I had so many different things that I wanted to try, and most of it actually made it into my classroom. There's one thing that didn't make it, but so I started incorporating like I don't have desks in my classroom, but if you did have desks, you could still group them together. But in my classroom, I started looking at like what could I implement that would be different than regular chairs and tables. I just wanted to offer a lot of choices, because at Starbucks there's a lot of choices where you could sit. So I looked into like stability balls and having stability balls for the proper height for a table. Then I looked at like, I know for me, even as an adult, sometimes I just sit on the floor and work. And so I thought like at Starbucks you don't sit on the floor, but it's all about like, here's an additional option. And so like, for my kids who like to sit on the floor, I took the legs off of a table and I got like OTPT approved core discs. So they sit on core discs on the floor. They love that one. Like that's one of the most popular. And then I have another table that has like the hockey chairs, the hockey stools that kind of wobble seats, and then crate seats that are like literally made out of a crate with like plywood and like a pad that they sit on. They love those. Then I have a couple different areas that are cozy like Starbucks, that have like the couches with like the lamps and like the vase and the pictures on the wall and stuff, and that's been good. And then I have another table that's a standing table. So literally for kids who have maybe a lot of extra energy, or kids who just need to move while they work. Lots of times it's my kids who have previously had behaviors in the classroom. They have a lot of success at the standing table because they aren't confined to a seat for the day. They actually will walk back and forth on one side of the table. And that's cool. I'm not going to tell them they need to stand still. Like they can walk back and forth. It's good. You're working. I don't care. As long as you're engaged and working, like that's good. And then I have just a table that has some stools, which is a really cool space too. So in addition to all of those, I have like bath mats and yoga mats. And kids will grab a yoga mat, grab a clipboard, grab a supply basket, and they'll just lay out on the floor and work. And that's been really successful for a lot of kids too. So you can see there's a lot of different options like Starbucks has. And then also as far as like classroom and environment, I don't have like the bulletin boards up. I have like framed 8x10 pictures of my kids with like their leadership qualities. Like I literally have a sign that I bought in Oregon. It says like work hard and be nice. And it's like a funny story because it's like 17 pounds and I had to somehow get it back on the airplane, but I totally pulled it off. But I have like just nice like framed cozy things up on the wall. But I do have anchor charts in the front, like lining the front on the top, which is really important too. And so it's kind of a combination of it's less classroom for me than it's ever been and more Starbucks. But I mean, there's still things in your classroom, obviously, that you need to have. So it's kind of a combination of that. One thing that did not make the cut was I did want to have like a nice big couch in there, but there just really wasn't enough space for that. And then also like there's something with like OSHA and fireproof something. So I didn't even go about it. But I do have two big, they're called like Big Joe beanbag chairs, and that worked out really good. So I kind of substituted, I guess. But a lot of the design process was researching all of these things. Like if I knew that this was going to be a big article for EdSurge, and I knew like it's going to be spreading, and I wanted to make sure like this is research based. This isn't just like, oh, a crazy idea I came up with at Starbucks, you know, like. So I researched the stability balls. I researched the hockey stools. I researched like if they lay down on the floor, what kind of impact does that have? And so I started doing a lot of research about like health-wise, is this going to make sense for kids? And like the more research I did, the more I found out like there's a lot of short-term health benefits, like increased metabolism, burning more calories throughout the day, and then also just like a better oxygen flow to your brain, which is of course what we always want kids having. And then I also found some interesting research from chiropractors that stated that like sitting in a traditional chair is actually really bad for kids, like spinal, like their spinal growth and their spinal like development. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting too. So there's a lot of research out there that really backed up kind of this crazy idea that I had. So a lot of like trial and error and just, I'm going to try this and I need the research that backs it up. And so after like life before TED was the TED Talk. And then life after TED was like, okay, how can I do Starbucks for kids? And so it was a lot of redesigning and researching, and I was super excited when it finally all came together at the beginning of this school year.
So it's real cool, right?
It's real cool.
It's
yes.
real cool. Now, this is something that in working with teachers, and you know, whenever I try to talk about innovation and doing different things, teachers always say, there's a lot of, they say, hey, I have some kids, right, who are the behavioral problems, okay? Their behavior is just off the chain, and I just cannot give them that type of control. So what should teachers do in the design process to sort of alleviate those concerns?
So exactly what you just said is it's funny to me, because like the farther that I've gone along with this and the more that I've handed over my classroom to my kids, like what's funny is the more power I give up in my classroom, actually the more power I get back in my classroom. So the more choice you can give your kids, like it feels like you're letting go of power, and like eventually like you're letting go of control, but really you're not. Like for example, like my kids who had some of them like extreme behaviors last year, like would have a very hard time even staying in the general ed classroom because they'd get so worked up or so mad. Like if you would come in my classroom now, Dr. Willick, and you would look around, you would not even know which kids those are. And so like it has improved behaviors in my classroom. I've always said like by 90%, but I'm going to say like 95%. Like there are still little things that happen like always in any kind of classroom throughout the day, but there are the huge significant like meltdown behaviors, like they just don't occur anymore. And I think like part of that is my kids know that there's power like in that choice. I get to choose where I work. Like she's not telling me I have to sit in the seat all day. Like, I have a hard time, like, I've been sitting here for 40 minutes. I have a hard time sitting still as an adult. So, like, think about a 7-year-old who has to sit in a desk all day. Like, of course they're going to get bored or they're going to get antsy. And that's where you're going to start to see those intense behaviors. And so, like, just giving them the choice, like, hey, bud, you can go to the standing table. You can walk back and forth. Or you want to lay out on a yoga mat? That's cool. Do you want to go sit in the Big Joe chair? That's great. Like, they know that the work is not a choice, but choosing where to work is. And there's real power in that for your kids. And so just letting go of that. Like, you'd probably be surprised. Like, it's a little bit scary to be like, okay, I'm just going to let them choose. But, like, here's the thing. Like, also know that the teacher in the classroom, like, none of my kids have assigned seats, which is really cool. But also they know, like, if they're choosing a seat that's based on, like, where their friends are and not where they can do their best work, like, I will move them. And so, like, that happens sometimes. That doesn't happen a ton, but it does happen sometimes. And so just keeping in mind, like, your kids should be self-selecting based on where they learn best and not on, like, oh, my friend is at that seat. And they know, like, I'm not going to give them a warning. Like, if you're not working and I look at you not working, I'm moving you. And so, like, I never give warnings in my classroom. Like, you're either doing what you should be doing or, like, you're going to be, like, we're fixing the situation. So just, like, having all of that set up before is really important. And we also normed everything out. Like, we norm everything in our classroom, but, like, we normed it out. Like, here's what it looks like. Here's what it sounds like. Here's the consequence if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And so, like, having those norms and having those really, you almost have to have super high expectations. Because if you start, like, letting something slip, that becomes the expectation of your classroom over time. And so, like, go back over the norms. Like, almost like whenever you need and also when you don't need, just to be like, hey, we're really doing a great job with this. Let's just pull up the norm chart and look over it again one more time. Like, you guys are doing a really good job. So keep that handy and use it as a reference, I guess.
So how has this change affected student engagement and student ownership of the learning in the classroom?
That's a good question. So, like, one thing that's really huge is that it's not my classroom anymore. And I think, like, I'm really cognizant of never calling it, like, my classroom. Like, it's always our classroom or sometimes even their classroom. And so, like, just that has really changed. Like, you're not even going to see my name up everywhere in the classroom because it's not just about me. Like, I'm not the most important person in the classroom anymore. Student engagement is through the roof and motivation through the roof because they're choosing where they get to sit, and that's huge. And I think, like, I'm getting a lot of people on social media, like, they'll tag me in pictures literally around the world, like, look at our redesigned Starbucks classroom, and it's like, that's amazing. And these teachers are getting it. Like, they're getting that it's not, I didn't just swap out desks for tables. Like, that doesn't make me a better teacher. That doesn't make me, like, a flexible seating classroom. Like, your mindset as a teacher has to change with that. Like, your classroom management almost has to be better because you have to be knowing, like, where are all the kids and are they all engaged? Like, you almost have to have better management. But engagement has gone way up, motivation way up, and, like I said, behaviors way down. Like, I don't think I ever had a year with so few behaviors, which is really incredible. Our mantra, or, like, our mission in our classroom is everyone's a teacher, everyone's a learner. And so, like, as a teacher for me, like, lots of times I'm stepping to the side and I'm letting kids get up on our stage and teach the lesson. And so there's power in that too, and, like, the kids knowing that, like, for example, in their Genius Hour projects, the kids lots of times know way more about their projects than I ever would. And, like, there's power in that too because they know that they are the expert in that and they can teach me in that. And so just really turning everything over to them has led to way, way, way higher engagement and motivation, like I said, than any year that I've had before. And this is my 8th year of teaching. So I've really grown as a teacher since my first year to now too. And it's been really incredible. And attention span is up. And I think a lot of that has to do with them not having to sit for so long too. And being able to make that choice has been huge. It's been really huge.
Cool. So before we go, I gotta get your advice because there are going to teachers. They're reading your EdSurge piece. Hopefully, they'll watch this podcast.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to be excited. They're going to be like, I want Starbucks too. And so what is your advice for those
Hmm.
teachers or administrators who want to bring the vibe of Starbucks into their classroom or schools?
This is such a timely question, actually. So, um, I'm going to give you the short version of what happened at my school now. So, my principal, his name is Jason Markison. He's super forward thinking, huge into health benefits. Like, we've gotten like 5 grants this year to just like all focused on making our kids healthier and better and more engaged. And so, one of them actually it was a pretty big grant. And a lot of it had to do with like our lunchroom redesign and all this whole thing that he did with it, but there was some money left. And what's funny, like when I first started the Starbucks for Kids thing, like he was all about like having standing tables for kids because he knew like there was increased blood flow, like it's better for your body, like all these things compared to like sitting in a traditional chair. And I was like, what do you think of this? And I kind of like told him everything I wanted to do, and he's like, let's do it. Because I mean, he knows that like, I have the research to back this up. It's not like just some crazy thing, like um, I had never seen a classroom like mine yet that had pulled in all the different kinds. Like you'll see a lot of classrooms that just go all to straight stability balls, or they go to all hockey chairs, and like that's a step in the right direction, but it's still not giving your kids choice. Like it's still not really allowing that choice. And so I kind of went to him and I was like, I have this idea. It's not to say that this idea is not already out there somewhere, but I want to try this. And he's like, let's do it. And so like what's crazy is like I didn't like send out my ed surge article to all staff. I didn't even tell anybody like other than my team, this is what I'm doing. I'm not doing assigned seats. Like they're gonna choose. Here's all the options. Like this is what I'm doing. And I didn't tell anybody like you all have to do this. Like I never did that. But slowly but surely, like my second grade team started converting their classrooms to look like mine. And then a few from third grade came over and watched. And then they started changing. And now, eventually, every single classroom in our school has gone towards flexible seating, which is really, I think, innovative. And there's a lot of people coming from all over the Midwest to come and observe in our classrooms, which is cool. Because now they don't just come to my classroom. They go to lots of classrooms because we're all doing it now, which is really cool. But like one piece of advice is not to force it. Like I would never force teachers to do this because I think like anytime you force anything, you're going to get backlash, whether it's technology, whether it's a new science curriculum, whether it's flexible seating. Like don't force it. We didn't tell anybody they had to do it. Like they all just started doing it because they saw the results were incredible. And I think like with anything that's best practice for kids, just always keep kids in the forefront. Like if it's right for kids, it's right. Like this isn't about the teacher's comfort level. This is about doing what's best for kids. And sometimes what's best for kids is what's least comfortable for teachers. And just keeping that in mind. Like with change, there's some discomfort. That's normal. Start small if necessary. So like maybe you just start with a table that's on the floor, or you just start with a table that's standing. And then maybe for some of those kids that have a lot of behaviors, like maybe you just give them like, here's your 2 choices. You can choose to sit at your seat, or you can choose here's 2 other choices for you. Like that's not my style. My style is like go big or go home in pretty much everything that I do. And so like this fall, I'm like, I'm doing it all at the same time. This is how I do it. But I see like that's not everyone's style. Maybe you start with 1 table, or you start, just get 6 bath mats at like $5 each and let your kids try that. And then also like another thing is like to be ready as teachers to shift your mindset. Like it's more than just swapping desks for tables. Like it's a whole mindset that you need to shift as a teacher. And also like my principal, Jason, he actually on our school blog, so if you just Google like Legacy Elementary, it's Legacy Together is our blog. Like you can find, I think he's going to post it this week. It's a whole article about how administrators can get on board with flexible seating in your classroom. And it's really going to be unique because it's written from his point of view. So that should be out actually this week, which will be really exciting and perfect timing for this whole interview actually.
Awesome, awesome. People, hopefully you're going to enjoy this show. You're going to be chilling with your hibiscus. Maybe you went to Starbucks and had a very berry tea. That's my favorite when I go to Starbucks. Anyway, thank you, Kayla, for being a guest on the show. People, there's going to be ways to be able to connect with her in social media. And as always, folks, be you, edu, peace.